Good morning to everyone. We will start, our class. And yesterday we talked about various concepts, right? We talked about actually yesterday was the class. It was a combination of two more class, right? And today we will start formally our syllabus, right? Lots of we have, talk about. So yesterday, I was talking about state. Right? Because we need to understand few political concepts, right? And yesterday we talked about various concepts, various words like what is political, what is thought, what is theory, what is philosophy, right? What is democracy, what is totalitarian, what is aristocracy, what is oligarchy, what is plutocracy, right? Then we talked about what is political theory, right, and theory in politics, right. Today we will talk about few more words and then we will start talking about Western political thought, right. Okay, fine, everyone. Shobhit, Raghav, Ashwin and everyone. If you have any question you can write to in comment box. I will read, or you can unmute yourself and then you can speak. Anyone, if you have questions you can ask, right? It's very easy to interact with you, but it becomes a little difficult while interacting with online students. So let's see state. What is state, right? How can we define the term state, right? If you see the ancient Greek city-state, I talked about the word polis, right? This is a Greek word and its meaning was city-state. Its meaning was city-state. Meaning means the English meaning. Polis is a Greek word, and we have seen in Athenian city-state, it was an activity of, many things, lawmaking, right? Then governing the people, right? Fighting for the state, to protect the state, administration, etc. Now, state, if you look at our everyday life, our everyday life starts with the state. Let me give you an example. For example, water supply. Who gives water supply in your household? Municipal corporation, if you are living in city, right? Okay, when child takes birth, right, we make a documentation called birth certificate. Who gives you this birth certificate? In city, municipal corporation, but in village, right, gram panchayat, right? That is the state. If you see police represents the state. Then if you see, military, it's a state. You see government, any government official, that represents a state, right? Then it has another meaning as well. For example, we say that state has a legitimate authority, right, to do violence, right? To violence. It has authority to maintain in law and order, right? So here you can see state is a legitimate authority, right? Sometimes we talk state in terms of a territorial unit like India, US, UK, France, Holland, Bangladesh, Bhutan. Therefore, if you look the term state, it has multiple meaning, right? It has multiple meaning. So we can define a state in various terms. So let's first we define a state in terms of, right? So the word state can be defined in terms of a collection of institution. So state as a collection of collection of institutions, right? So what is institutions? That we say this is a state. For example, police, right? For example, military, for example, parliament. Parliament is an institution, like judiciary, like state assembly, like local government. Local government, like prison. Prison is an institution, right? Therefore, here you can see state is a collection of institutions like police, military, parliament, judiciary, local government, right? We have lots of work with local government. For example, early in the morning, the sanitation staff come at your house and collect the garbage, right? Then you have water supply from Delhi Jal Board, right? Isn't it? So we encounter state every day, right? So that is the first way we can define the term state, right? Secondly, we can define state as a territorial unit. So state as a territorial unit. State as a territorial unit. For example, we say US. US is a state, right? UK, right? India, Bhutan, right? Now you see, as a territorial unit, these are state. Making sense? Right? Now, this is the second way we can define. Third way, we can define state as an idea, right? How we can define a state as an idea, right? In terms of idea, a state is an abstract concept. You can't see a state. Is it invisible? But you can experience it. You can experience state, right, in your everyday life. For example, when I say municipal corporation gives you birth certificate, that means municipal corporation is not a state, it is a part of government, but it represents the state, right? When you encounter police, when police lock up someone in jail, they experience government. Police is a government, but it represents a state. Like bureaucrat represents the state. So as an idea, state is an abstract concept, right? And what the many scholars like Gardner talks about, the politics begins with the state and end with the state, right? So we can write here, state is an abstract idea. Abstract idea, right? Gardner was a noted political scientist. Gardner argues that politics begins with the state and ends with the state. Right? Look at our life. Our life, when we take our birth or a baby takes birth, life, recently we interact with the state, like municipal corporation. When we die, we need death certificate, isn't it? when someone has insurance, you need this certificate to cash the insurance. Let's see, it's not only life begins with the state, interacting with the state and with the interacting of the state. Even politics begins with the state and ends with the state. And that is why state has been center of study for many philosophers. State has been center of study. For example, if you talk, for example, Plato talks about state, right? Do we obey a state? What kind of state we need to have? Is it the current government, with the current state justified? No, then how we can change the state? How can we make state, he termed ideal state? We will talk about Aristotle. He said a good life can be possible in a state only, right? Good life can be possible in a state only. So Aristotle, Plato, Aristotle, Hobbes, right, Machiavelli, right, Locke, right, J.S. Mill, Marx, and number of political philosophers talks about a state, right? That's why state is very important, right? So state has multiple meaning, right? Multiple meaning. Let me tell you one more meaning of the state. A state as rules. A state as rules, norms, law. For example, on the road, it is ruled that the traffic should go in the lane. Nobody is coming to us and telling, okay, follow this lane or that lane, right, stop on red light. Nobody is saying, but what do? We follow traffic rules. It means we are obeying the state, right? If you jump a traffic police, traffic light, then police will catch you and fine you, right? For example, if you drive a car on the road, there are rules how much speed you can increase of your car, right? And if you increase beyond the limit which is permissible on the road, it is an offense. It is an offense. So ऐसा नहीं कि मेरी कार है मैं कैसे भी चलाऊं. No, right? So if you have baby, right, and you can go for his or her marriage, you have to wait for 18 years if she is girl, or 21 years for the boy, right? It's not that at 5, at the age of 5 you can go for marriage. No. Now look at, we are following the state. A state has a rules, norms, laws. If you are walking on the road, why do you take left side? It is a rule, right? Why traffic police, why while driving car, why you stop at a red light? This is your car. This is law, rules. Got the idea? So a state has multiple meaning, right? And if you look at, there were one philosopher, his name was Max Weber. I told you that state has been center of study for many political philosophers, right? And Weber, his name was Max Weber, a noted sociologist, a renowned sociologist. How he defined the state? He defined, a definite geography, right? A definite geography governed by the government on population, and it is free from external control. Now, just I have paraphrased you can define it, you can put a population governed by a government in a definite territory, and it is free from external control. Now here from the Weber definition, you can find state has certain element. A state has its certain element. What is that element? The 4 element he talks about, right? A classical definition, right? That is, a territory, right? Then government, population, and free from external control means sovereignty, right? Sovereignty. Now these are the essential element of state, right? And if there is absence of even a single element, you cannot call state. Let me give you an example. East Pakistan has its own territory, different from the West Pakistan. It has its own government, it has population, but before 1971 it was not free from external control. It was controlled by the West Pakistan, and it was not a state. But in 1971, after the freedom movement, right, and India's intervention, Bangladesh became an independent state, free from the control of the West Pakistan, and it became member of the United Nations, right? So state has multiple meaning, but the 4 meaning I have told you: state as a territorial unit, state as a idea, state as a collection of various institutions, right? And state as a rules, norms, laws, right? And if you look at Article 12 of the Indian Constitution, that also defines a state, right? Now this is my assignment to you. Read Article 12 of the Indian Constitution, which defines a state. So this is my assignment to you, right? Article 12 of the Constitution defines a state. Now you go at home, read Article 12, and tomorrow you can answer me. Okay, so this is of the state, right? Okay, clear? I hope the term state is clear. Now I told you that state is a territorial unit, and you had asked beautifully that, sir, was it that uniform, the formation of state was uniform throughout the age? No. We can see the evolution of state, right? Evolution of state in the global north or the western society, and the evolution of state in the third world, global south. Fine. So we can see evolution of state. Evolution of state as a territorial unit. Territorially unit in the West. Now here I am talking about West, but I will compare, don't worry. So evolution of a state as a territorial unit in the West. We have seen state has multiple meaning, but as a territorial unit, it has evolved. Now, if you look at ancient Greek city-state, right? So the first stage was, city-state. City-state. The first stage of evolution of state was city-state, and it evolved in Greek city, right? Greek. Fine? Like Athens, like Sparta, like Peloponnnesia, like Lesbos, like Macedonia. Fine? So, right, this was a small city-state. A small city-state. If you talk about India, there was a Mahajanpada. There was a small state. Right? Right? So similarly in Athens, right, there was a state like, this was a small city-state in ancient Greek. Example, right? Athens, Sparta, right? Macedonia, Lesbos. Fine. There were more than 100 states. If I show you, let me show you how state looked like in Athens. Now you can see, this was not two state, it was a two alliance, and all small. This was a Sparta, right? Here you can see Sparta, and here you can see Athens. And there was a many state. Lesbos I have talked about, right? Lemnos, right? बहुत ज़्यादा है. Macedonia. There were many states, right? This is a picture when there was a war. I will show you, right? We'll talk about war. So that is the first time. But if you second stage of state was, a state expanded its territory. I am talking about territorial unit. State expanded its territory and established empire. Right? Like Alexander of Macedonia, extended from Macedonia to entire Greek city-state. He won entire world. He attacked India, right? And that time, empire age was also building in this, like Ashoka Mauryan Empire, right? And since then till 17th, 18th century, you can see the entire world was governed by different empire, and empire was a territorial unit. There was no state, right? So state was in form of empire, right? Mauryan Empire, Macedonian Empire, right? If you come to 17th, 16th century, Mughal Empire in India, right? Ottoman Empire in Middle East, Habsburg or Bourbon Empire in Europe. So this entire world approximately, and especially Western world, dominated by empire. So second is empire age, or the age of empire. The age of empire, right? Okay. This was initiated, this was started taking shape in ancient Greek city-state. Ancient Greek city-state, right, and continued till 16th century. Now write example, right? Mughal Empire, right? Then Ottoman Empire, then Habsburg Empire, right? Bourbon Empire, right? You must have eaten Bourbon biscuit, right? It's very nice to eat, it's very tasty, but that is, their name is on the basis of empire. Now, if you see, this is the second phase of state as a territorial unit. Now, in 16th, 17th century, that empire broke down, declined. For example, the Ottoman Empire declined, Mughal Empire declined, right? In Habsburg Empire, Bourbon Empire declined, and as a territorial unit, there is a new formation that is called modern nation state. A new formation that is called modern nation state. So, third stage was modern nation state. Yeah, you keep writing modern nation state, right? It evolved in 17th and 18th century in Europe. So, modern nation state evolved in 17th, 18th century, right? Even 19th century. If you see the unification of Germany, it took place in 19th century. Unification of Italy, it took place in 19th century, right? So, if you see the modern nation state, how, which state can be called, early modern nation state, right? For example, Britain. For example, France, Holland, right? Spain, Russia, right? Russia. These were the early modern nation state. Later on, if you see, like Germany, Italy, right? Belgium, right? And still it is evolving. Which country can be called, a nascent, a new state? Any clue? Which are the newest member in the United Nations? South Sudan. Yeah, before South Sudan, East Timor. Before East Timor, Kosovo. Now, you see, this is still in formation, right? So, Germany, then Italy, then Belgium, then again came. Fine? So, you can see this is the modern territorial unit of state that is called nation state. There is one important factor that led to formation of state in modern time, and that was the decline of empire, right? And when there is a transformation, then there is some agreement, some conference, is it not? So, when if you look at 17th century, the entire Europe was fight. There was a fight between Bourbon and Habsburg Empire, right? And it was not only fight between Habsburg and Bourbon Empire, there was also, a fight between Catholic Church and Protestantism, Protestant. So entire Europe was under the war, and after the war there is a one conference called it happened in 1948. What was that, Sarthak? Westphalia, Treaty of Westphalia. Treaty of Westphalia. Thank you, I was actually missing. Yeah, Treaty of Westphalia, right? And Treaty of Westphalia recognized two things. One is all nation state, whether small or large, are equal. Even today we follow this principle. If you look at United Nations Charter, the principle of United Nations Charter says all nation state, whether it's large or small, are equal. So India is equal, Bhutan is equal to Nepal, and Nepal is equal to US. All are member of the United Nations, right? So if you see the General Assembly voting pattern, one country, one vote. So Nepal vote has same value, or surface value you can say. For example, rupee, 1 rupee has one, so it has internal value and face value. होता है ना? तो 1 rupee, 1 rupee gold and 1 rupee other, for example, silver. You can say this is rupee, but that is face value 1 rupee, but its internal value differs. Anyway, two principle it laid down that all nation state right, whether small or large, are equal. That is the first principle it laid down, and that principle again still we follow. That's why Treaty of Westphalia is very important, right? It established an order at international level. Whether you are big state or whether you are small state, you all are equal, right? And second, that no country has authority to intervene in the matter of another country. It means it defined sovereignty of each country, right? So he said, no country is allowed to intervene in the matter of another country. Now again, this is valid. Now if you see the Panchsheel policy of Nehru, or you can see Gujral, I.K. Gujral, he proposed Gujral doctrine, right? And he said no country has, right, and no country should intervene in the matter of another country, right? That means each country is sovereign. Right? Here each country means each state, right? Each state is sovereign. Now still we follow this formula. That's why, so for example, when Holland became an independent state, no other territory has right to intervene into that. Holland became independent, right? Belgium became independent. There was no Poland. Now today we know the Poland, right? It is a part of European Union. There is no Poland before 1920. It became a state, right? By forgetting Germany, right? So there was just so many states evolved in a due course of time. That's a state evolution, right? State, still we have so many states. We have 27 states in European Union, right? In Europe there are 28 states. Now if you see, no, more than that. There are many states in Europe which is not part of European Union, like Ukraine, Moldova. They are not the part of the European Union, right? Now even UK made exit from the European Union. So approximately 30 states there are in Europe. There are, if I remember, there are 53 states in Africa, right? Approximately 40, 48, 45 in Asia. Similarly, if you see Europe, if I am not remember the correct number, but there are many states, I mean here to say. So that we talked about a state. Any confusion regarding state, right? No? Now we will talk about sovereignty. Sovereignty. What is sovereignty? It means supreme power. It means supreme power. When I say India is a sovereign country, India is a sovereign state, what does it mean? India is supreme in its internal matter and it's in external matter, right? And no country is allowed to intervene into the matter, right? So why sovereign, right? I taught you that when a state is sovereign, it has legitimate authority to do violence. For example, if you see this is if I make this very bad India map, India can do violence anywhere. And why violence? There are two reasons. First is to maintain law and order. So there are some group in northeast or somewhere in the central India, and if they don't follow the law, then the state does violence, right? Second time, when the external enemy attack you, then they do, they go for the violence on the external, but here to maintain law and order. Whatever the law state will make, everyone will have to follow. India is sovereign, but what is outside of the state? There is one word called anarchy. Let me teach you also that word. What is anarchy? Let me tell you the word, very important, anarchy. Have you heard of the word anarchy? What does it mean? Opposite of democracy? Sorry? No government. Right, very good. Yes, better. Anarchy means, no rule. Right? Maybe government, but no rule. Chaos, disorder. Right? Like, have you heard about Matsya Nyaya? Matsya Nyaya. What is Matsya Nyaya? What is the rule of the sheep? A big big fish swallows the small fish. That is called Matsya Nyaya, and there is no law. And the big fish, if that fish wants to eat small fish, they can. Right? So might is right, isn't it? So when there is a rule of might is right, if I am powerful, I can snatch your purse. Nobody is going to tell me anything, like police. There is no police. That situation is called anarchy. For example, there is a jungle. There is a jungle, forest. Do you think there is any law in forest? No. right? It is a complete anarchy, right? So strength in the animal eats the weak animal, or right? Does it happen or not? There is no rule of law, right? No order, and entirely chaos. Might is right is the rule. Similarly, in the sea, that is called Matashinyaya. But if you look at the different continent of the world, right? It can't be. We can't live in anarchy, right? So who can impose rule of law? It is a state, right? So we formed a state to transform anarchy into an ordered society, right? If you read Indian philosophy, Manu was the first king, or Manu is considered as first king. Why he sent to the earth in Indian mythology, right? Indian philosophy. Because there was a chaos, there was a disorder, life was, very difficult on earth. So God, he's called son of, son of sun. Son of sun. Right? Surya Putra. So Manu was sent to the earth to establish society, right? And to make law, to follow the law. And if the law is not, if someone does not follow the law, who punishes? Right? For example, if you don't follow the traffic law, the police will come, traffic police, and will fine you. But if you repeat it, then what will you do? What the police actually does? It, sometimes cancel your license. And further you don't follow, then that may, that action may land you in jail. Isn't it? Right? Why? Because why police is restricting you? Because you can exercise your liberty, at the same time other can also exercise the liberty, and you cannot take your liberty as a license. मुझे जैसे मन होगा वैसे करूँगा, right? You can't say like this. It is my car, if I put horn on the in front of hospital, or horn or in the front of a school, right? This is my car, I'll put horn. No. Police may beat you up there, not fine, beat you up. Are you insane? You don't have mind at least that you should not put horn, right? So anarchy is a state of chaos. Anarchy is a state of chaos, right? Then disorder, then unruly or unruled society, right? It works on theory of might is right. What do we call in Hindi? जिसकी लाठी उसी की भैंस. Might is right, or मत्स्य न्याय. मत्स्य न्याय. That is anarchy, right? For example, here I am to maintain law and order, right? So I can say, okay, you don't do this, you do this, you don't do this. But think about if this class turns into anarchic. Nobody feels safe, right? If somebody bring a gun in the class, everyone feel insecure, right? It may reflect symptom of anarchy, right? And who controls anarchy? Who put things in order? It is a state. It is a state, right? We are reading a state in terms of, right? Fine. So we have talked about anarchy. Now, so that is a state. Now, a state in the East. 5 more minutes, then we will start Plato, right? A Greek state. Nation, state in the East. अब जब मैं ईस्ट बोल रहा हूं, right, then it is a global south. Global south. When I say global south, means Asia, Africa and Latin America. That is also called global south, right? They are also called third world countries. Third world countries, right? Nation state in the East. How nation state in the global south evolved? If you look at nation state in the global south, it evolved as a reaction to, colonialism, right? Earlier there is an empire, Mughal empire, but after what happened? The imperial power colonized us, right? Imperial power, similar imperial power also colonized Africa, Latin America. If you see the Latin America, which language is spoken most in America, in South America or Latin America? Spanish. Why? Because Spain ruled the continent, most part of the continent for the long time, and people speak Spanish. Similarly, the Britain, governed India. Now you can see we are having our conversation in English. If you go to Puducherry, you see people speak French, isn't it? Because they were governed by the imperial French power, right? So nation state in South evolved, right, in reaction to colonialism. Fine. And this colonial power was very brutal. This colonial power was very brutal, and they were serving their own interest, isn't it? For example, take the example of India, right? Do you know GDP at 1950 or before 1950? It was approximately 0 and negative, because all money, and all expenditure was done from the Indian revenue, right? And not all, means all personnel of Britain was financed by India. Our raw material will, when used to go there, the finished product used to come here. And it is a story of the entire third world. If you see the third world, they are all, you can say, backward, not developed as compared to the West, because our relationship was a relationship of exploiter, tator and exploitative, isn't it? Right? You have heard about drain theory given by by Naroji, right? The wealth of India was drained to West, UK, and we became poor and Britain became richer, right? So nation state in the West evolved in reaction to the colonialism, right? And example agar likhna hai, you can write many. India, right? Right, Bangladesh, many names, right? Many names you can write. Argentina, right? South Africa, Namibia, Morocco. Morocco was ruled by France. Making sense? So that is nation state in the south. Fine. Now I hope I have taught you any words which I need to explain. Tell me. Basic word I have taught you. Then should I move to teach you? Now formal teaching will start now, right? Now I have taught you that I will teach topic number 10 first. We will start from topic number 10. And topic number 10, what is topic number 10? Western political thought. Very good. Right? You must be, well acquainted with your syllabus and questions. I emphasize, on it. So we will start WPT, and in WPT, what we need to study first? Yeah, we need to study Greek city-state and its philosopher, right? So Greek city-state, right, and its philosopher, and then we will come to the modern: Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, J.S. Mill, Marx, Gramsci, and Hannah Arendt. That is in the WPT. Why do we study Greek city-state and their philosopher, right? Right? When we start WPT, Western political thought, why we read Plato, Aristotle? Because the answer is Western political thought essentially begins with, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle from the Greek city-state, right? So you can write why Plato, or why Greek city-state? Right? Yeah, why do we study Greek city-state? Right? Why do we study Greek city-state? Right? First, in WPT, Western political thought. That is the question, right? You must have inquisitive mind. What is inquisitive mind? Questioning mind. You must question why we are reading it, sir. What is the relevance of reading it? Answer is the political thought begins with the Greek city-state. Political thought begins with Greek city-state. Greek city-state. Right? In ancient Greek state, there were many philosophers. There were many philosophers. Like Thales, Anaximenes, Anaximander, Have you heard about Pythagoras? Xenophon, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, right, and list goes on. There are many. Now you will think, sir, why do we only study Socrates, Plato and Aristotle? There was a many philosopher, but why do we study only Socrates, Plato and Aristotle? Let me tell you, the Socrates is known as father of philosophy, right, and father of ethics, right, and his student Plato is known as father of political philosophy. It is said that Plato was philosophy and philosophy was Plato. Plato was so influential there, so one can be Platonic or anti-Platonic. You can follow him or you can criticize him, but no one can be non-Platonic. You cannot escape him, right? If I give you example, as a leaders in India, Modi is a unique leader. You may like Modi or you may hate Modi, but you cannot bypass Modi. You have to, if you talk about leadership, Modi is a grand leader, a mass leader. Either you criticize him, fine. Similarly, Plato was a philosopher of that stature, right? And Aristotle was also called father of political science, right? Now, what about these all Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes, Pythagoras, Xenophon? If you see, just need to write question and then question answer in this form, right? Why do we study Socrates, Plato and Aristotle? Why do we study, or why do we start our study? Why do we start our study from Socrates? Right? That is the question. Maybe when I say that many philosophers before Socrates, the philosopher were, right, Anaximander, Anaximenes, Pythagoras, they were interested in natural philosophy. They were interested in natural philosophy. For example, solar eclipse, movement of earth, right, that from distance from moon to sun or from earth to moon. They were interested in astronomy, star, how many stars. They were more interested in that. So they were interested in natural philosophy. But if you come to the Socrates, Plato and Aristotle, they were also interested in natural philosophy, but they raised some question about human life, about society, about state, about how to do or right thing to do. And that is why, you know, Western philosophy or political thought begins with Socrates, Plato and Aristotle. So, right, the earlier philosopher of ancient, the earlier philosophers of ancient Greek were more interested in natural phenomena. like sun, movement of earth, solar eclipse, distance from sun to moon or moon to earth, pattern of a star, and mathematical calculation. Still we study Pythagoras theorem. Do we study? Nahi. He was from there. I must say you, Pythagoras influenced many people, and there were many enemies of Pythagoras. You know how Pythagoras was killed? He was killed basically. He was an intellect, right? He was killed. Anyway, Pythagoras was very famous. So, whatever you have written, last line? Yeah, right. The Socrates was interested in natural phenomena, but he raised few valid and eternal questions. Eternal questions like, why do we live in community? Like, why do we live in community? Why do we need a state? Why do we need state? What is our relations with the state? What is our relations with the state? Do we obey state? Do we obey state? If yes, on what term and condition? On what term and condition? But if we revolt against a state, why do we revolt? Why do we revolt? What kind of government is the best form of government? What kind of government is the best form of government? What is knowledge? What is knowledge? Why do we pursue knowledge? Why do we pursue knowledge? Many questions I have dictated to you. Very sufficient to argue that, okay, Socrates were first, right? Socrates was father of philosophy. Socrates was a father of philosophy, and he was a father of ethics. Socrates was a father of philosophy, and he was a father of ethics. Right? He was influenced by Xenophon. He was influenced by Yeah, Socrates was father of philosophy, or Socrates regarded as a father of philosophy and father of ethics. He was influenced by Xenophon, who emphasized that human person or human being have ability to acquire knowledge. Right? That is episteme. Episteme means, it is a Greek word, it means knowledge. Right? Human being has ability to acquire knowledge. Knowledge about society, knowledge about a state, knowledge about, anything that you pursue, you can acquire. Right? And that is why Xenophon is called father of epistemology. इसी में ई को हटा करके लॉजी लगा दीजिए. That's why Xenophon is known as father of epistemology. Fine? Hang on. When I say epistemology, what does it mean? What does it mean? When you say biology, when you call sociology, right? When we call theology, what does it mean? The logy word come from logos. Again, Greek word, theory. When you say biology, yani science, this is called science. Or you can say theory, science of knowledge, theory of knowledge, science of knowledge. When you say biology, science of, right? And human, living being, that is biology. Sociology, science of the society, right? When you go psychology, right? So there are many logy, and that logy has come from the word logos. It means science. And the word episteme, episteme matlab kya hota hai? Knowledge. So what is epistemology? Science of knowledge. Making sense? Right. Socrates proposed theory of knowledge. Change the para and write. Socrates proposed theory of knowledge. Theory of knowledge. He said knowledge is virtue. He said knowledge is virtue. It can be acquired. It can be acquired by human being. Right? Done? Let me tell you one interesting thing, that okay, then you will start, have you studied Socrates' writing? We don't have writing of Socrates. What we know Socrates from the writing of Plato, right? So there is a human history, and even we were not able to preserve the writing of Socrates, and whatever we know Socrates, we know from Plato. So right question, has Socrates written any book? Has Socrates written any book? Or treatise? Online chaps, if you have any confusion, anything, you can put in comment. Right answer? The all writing of Socrates, writing of Socrates perhaps destroyed, and there is and we know Socrates, through the through the writing of Plato. We know Socrates through writing of Plato. Plato wrote 34 books. Plato wrote 34 books. And except three, right? And except three, Socrates is a main commentator. Socrates is a main commentator, right? So spelling is Socrates is this, right? Socrates, we call Socrates, some say Socrates, some say another, right? Some say Sukrat. हिंदी में कहते हैं, right? सुकरात बोलते हैं, right? Anyway, so Socrates, what have you written? Yeah, Socrates was major commentator, right? So that is we will talk about again Socrates. So was a major commentator, right? We will come on Socrates later on, later on, but first we know, और यहीं पे लिख लेते हैं, right? Okay. Should we? I think that would be more connecting link. Later, first we know Greek city-state, right? What do you know about the Greek city-state? What do you know about Greek city-state? Right? Greek city-state was a tiny city-state, and few of them were Greek city-state was a tiny city-state, and few of them were Athens, Sparta, Syracuse, Miletus, right, etc. Among all, Athens and Sparta was very popular. Among all, Athens and Sparta was very popular. Right? Why Athens and Sparta was popular? You write a question. Why Athens and Sparta was very popular? Why Athens and one question has come, virtue. When I say knowledge is virtue, Socrates called knowledge is virtue. What is virtue? Virtue is a soul, right? Your virtue can be defined in a multiple way. It is something which should be pursued, right? Which should be done, right? Like knowledge, right? Virtue kind of God, it's kind of God, you can say. When you say knowledge is virtue, knowledge is a truth. Knowledge is something we can pursue. The lab, right? It's kind of soul. Fine. What question have you written? Yeah, I'm just depicting a page, just a picture, right? One is picture of Athens. So here is Athens, you see, and here is a Sparta. The most organized community or society in Athenian city-state. Athens was a democratic state. Athens was democratic state, and democratic institution flourished in Athens, right? But Sparta was military state. Sparta was a military state. Athens was a democratic state. Athens was center of art, center of learning, center of art, learning, right? Economy. Right? Right. And therefore it attracted foreigner. For example, US is if you see the best university of the world, it is US UK. So when any people wants to want to pursue more knowledge or disseminate knowledge, they go there. Does it happen? Right. So if you see, it attracted people from outside. It attracted people from outside. Right? Now, it does not allow foreigner. It does not allow aliens or foreigner. Right? Here, if you see, Athens was a society which was structured. There was a hierarchy in the society. Right? There was a hierarchy in the society. So there is a difference between man and woman. लिख लिया ना? लिखते रहिए इसको, हाँ? Right? If you have not written, write it. Athens was a democratic state. There was an institution. Right? It was a center of art, learning, economy. It attracted many people from outside like sophists. Like sophists. Fine, I'll come to the sophist, but later on, first we just demarcate what was the differences. Yeah, virtue is excellence. Yeah, right, Shobit. Virtue is excellence, right? something which must be pursued, which should be pursued. Right? So Athens was a democratic state, it has many institutions, it flourished, right? It was a center of art, learning, economy, it attracted many people from outside, like sophists. I told you what is sophist? Wisdom. They were the people alien, but they loved wisdom. They were half university, we'll talk about them. Now, it was a military state, but does not allow alien, foreigner. But here you can say women and men both used to take military exercise, education. So that here you can find gender equality. Today we are talking about gender equality. There was already 23 years ago. 23 years ago there was a gender equality. Right? Not? Let's see. 1 minute, let me move it. Yeah. There was gender equality. Fine. Now, if you see, that was the basic difference. Right? And in certain course of time, Sparta thought Athens is rising. Athens is rising. And after the death of Pericles was a ruler, a democratic ruler, who established many institutions of democracy, right? The entire Athens grew in his time. Economic growth was great, and that attracted many foreigners, and that one was sophist. But if you look at Sparta feared, that the Athens may attack on it. Athens may attack on it. And what happened? Both country or both city-state engaged in a war. That is called Peloponnesian War. Right? Why Peloponnesian? Because it starts with one place that is called Peloponnesia. Right? So this war involved all the small state. If you look at Athens, it was a coastal state. Right? It was a coastal state. Here I am showing you the Athens. You see, Athens is a coastal state, and it aligned with the all coastal state. It involved with the all coastal state. But Sparta had a large territory of land, and its military was powerful. Its military was powerful. Even women were very highly skilled in fighting. Right? And this war fought between them for approximately 30 years. War, truce, war. And finally, Sparta won. And Athens lost the war. The Socrates which I have introduced you, he also fought from Athenian side. He used to make weapon. Right? He used to make weapon. And certain point of time he became disabled, not able to fight, physically fit. Thucydides, have you heard about Thucydides, who documented this war and wrote History of Peloponnesian War, one book. He wrote History of Peloponnesian War, right? And this war actually changed the entire context of the Athenian city-state and the Sparta. Making sense about the war, right? It was a long war, and what happened in war? You have to spend money, you have to, of course, exhaust your money, right? then military does their own way, politician starts doing their own way, and entire thing in Athens become unmanageable.
Sir, the handout you gave, if there's written that Socrates distanced himself from both the cities.
Coming to that point. I have not reached to that point.
No, in the war itself, because he doesn't like even the democracy or the.
I know. The moment you have pointing out, I know that is not this. We'll come to that. So, if you see, this war deteriorated the situation of Athens. Athens was a center of learning. There was many intellectual people, right, who were engaged in the dissemination of knowledge, right? And I told you this is a democracy, and democratic state, democracy fell down. Fell down, it means, militarily fell down in the front of Sparta, right? And here the leader become very manipulative, right? And Socrates thought that sophist was the major cause of the fall down of Athens. Why? Why sophist? So you wrote it, you got it. Can I proceed then from here? Story now starts here, right? So all political philosophy are the stories. All political philosophies are the stories, right? You need to understand it carefully, you need to write it. I'll give you a handout, read it, you love it, you love it. And let me tell you, if you love it, no one can you defeat in political theory. No one can defeat you even writing international relation. Right? Fine. Making some sense? Any question? Dilip, Ashwin, Raghav, Shobit, Prasadji chala gaya. Fine, no issue. Should I move ahead? You have made the notes? Okay. Right? Socrates, right. Socrates, claimed or accused, Socrates accused sophist, right? Socrates accused sophist for the downfall of Athens. Why? Why Socrates, blamed sophist? Why Socrates blamed sophist? If you see, I told you that Athens was a center of learning, art, right? And the earlier sophist, I told you the word sophist comes from Sophia. Sophia means knowledge. So all sophists were foreigner, but they were kind of half university, right? They were very knowledgeable, right? They used to teach the Athenian youth. They used to teach history, culture, art, music, science, natural philosophy, everything. They were like Indian sage and seers, right? But in the later phase, right, they started taking money. They started taking money in exchange of giving knowledge. And they also changed the nature of knowledge that was in delivery. For example, they started giving knowledge about how to manipulate election, how to capture power, right? They used to, how to influence people, rhetoricism, right? Eloquence, right? How can you use your official position for your own benefit, right? And that is why, you know, Socrates accused Sophists, okay, today Athens has fell down because Sophists is one of the region, right? And democracy is another region. Democracy is not good a form of government because the democracy gives unbridled freedom and equality, right? Unbridled freedom, and it is not based on knowledge, wisdom, right? Wise people does not rule. Who rules? All rules. What was the rules of Athenian? Rule and to be ruled in turn. Citizens were equal, right? So if you look at Athenian society, it is not that there was a complete equality. There was another population like women. Women were not equal. Unlike Sparta, you can find, right? Then there was slave, there was a metic, fine, this population over there, but all citizens were free and equal. And among the citizens, everyone has to rule and to be ruled in turn.
So means democracy was also there, but at the same time there were inequalities.
There was inequality was there, democracy was there, right? So let me tell you Athenian society. For example, if you see the Athens, right? If you see the Athens, there were citizens, and all citizens were free and equal. All citizens were free and equal. Apart from citizens, there were women. Women were not equal.
They were not included in
Not equal in citizens, yeah. They were not part of the citizens. Why they were not part of the citizen? I told you that the Athens were, you know, center of learning, and the learned man thought that woman has no capacity of deliberation, discussion, but I think women deliberate more than the man, right? Look at the household, na? Mama, you know, deliberates more than papa, and sometimes give more rational argument. Does it happen? But our learned of the past, right? They thought that no, woman does not have deliberative capacity. They don't have rationality and logic, and therefore they should be subordinate to man, right? So all men were free and equal, right? Apart from man, there was a slave. Then there was a metic. Who are metics? Metics were aliens, right? And all aliens, but those aliens who were knowledgeable, who were wise, called sophists. Making sense? Now what have you written in the last?
We wrote a question. So basically you were accused sophists for downfall of Athens. Why?
Yeah, like in the earlier phase of Athens, sophists were like half university, educating Athenian youth, right? Like history, art, music, art of government. But later on, full stop के बाद, put a full stop then. But later on, and especially during the वार, यू नो वार का नाम पता है ना, पेलोपोनेशियन वार, भूलना मत, थुसिडिडीज का भूलना मत, राइट अभी कहा जाता है, पहले लिख लीजिए फिर बताता हूँ. व्हाट यू हैव रिटन? हाँ, sophist started educating youth about rhetoric. Rhetoric means art of speaking or art of speech. Eloquence, 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 that means yeah, impressive, yeah, or you inducing, right, inducing someone, pursuing someone, okay, do it, very good one, right. How to capture power, how to manipulate election, right. They also started taking money. In exchange of giving knowledge. They also started taking money in the exchange of knowledge. Therefore, sophists were reason for moral degradation. Sophists were reason for moral degradation of the Athenian youth. Corruption, lust for power, consequently Athens declined. Fine? Making sense? Everyone? Right? Socrates, right, change the para, right? Socrates were not happy. Socrates was not happy. Right? 15 minutes we have. Socrates was not happy with the existing situation of Athens. Right? Now try to understand what you were asking. War fought. I told you that about there was a war between Athens and Sparta. What happened in Athens? Government appointed a 30-member committee to examine law, certain law. But Sparta, what Sparta did, it bagged 30%, and this 30%, overthrew the democracy, and they captured power. They not only captured power, they killed 1,000 people approximately. and exiled many, right? And they become tyranny of 30. For 8 months, Athens experienced this tyranny of 30, right? And Socrates knew many of them. Even if you see Plato, 2 Plato's uncle were part of the 30, right? It continued till 8 months, but I told you that there was a very strong roots of democracy in Athens. So the democratic faction again fought and overthrew the tyranny of 30 and then re-established democracy in Athens, right? So there were 2 factions, tyrannical this and democratic faction. Socrates knew people from the both sides. I told you that Plato's 2 uncle was from part of that, but Socrates was not interested in the present situation of democracy, because that democracy provided unbridled freedom and opportunity to sophists to teach Athenian youth in such a way that they are involved in moral decline, corruption, nepotism, right, money making or using office, right, for personal gain, right, manipulating election, so on and so forth. Got the idea? Have you connected the link? Right. Fine. So what have you written in the last sentence? Current situation, right? He emphasized on theory of knowledge. On theory of knowledge. He said knowledge is virtue. Knowledge is virtue. And knowledge can be attained, through 2 things. First, if your soul desires. Secondly, if you pursue. First, if your soul desires, and second, if you pursue that knowledge. For example, let me give you an example. If your soul is desire, okay, if you have not desire of wealth, if you have not desire of go for adventure, but you have desire for wisdom, you have instinct, passion for wisdom, if you have passion for knowledge, right? So first your soul should must have passion to acquire knowledge, otherwise you won't acquire knowledge. So first is your natural instinct, your natural, right, Secondly, if you have that kind of soul that desires power, secondly, you have to attain it. That means you have to get education. You have to learn from teacher. You need to find a teacher. You need to find a book. You need to find YouTube channel where you can find. So 2 things is very necessary. One is the soul, a wise soul, right? And second is you should get it through training. So first soul and second is training. Still we say, no, this child loves music. Since lives, the child has passion to learn music, give him, admit him in academy, give him training. so that he can do excellence, right? He can do excellent. Fine, right? He said, change the para and he write, he said, Socrates said, knowledge is not mere M-E-R-E, mere opinion. Knowledge is not mere opinion, right? If you meet person, hang on, if you meet person in society, सब आपको knowledge देने लगेंगे. तुम ज़्यादा जानते हो? Do you know more? I know about it, right? But they know superficial. There is a difference between opinion and knowledge, right? And Plato said, right, knowledge is based on certain principles. Knowledge is based on certain principles, right? So here we have to define. So knowledge is not mere opinion, right? So you can make a table. So what is the difference between knowledge and opinion? Right? Knowledge is based on certain principles. Right? Based on certain principles. Knowledge is based on certain principles. Right? Opinion is a mere first reflection. Opinion is first, reflection. Right. So for example, if you go and tell to person, okay, this is a pen, right? Oh, I know this pen. मैंने देखा है 5 साल पहले से मेरे पास है. This looks as a simple pen, but this is not a simple pen, right? If you want to know about it, you have to interrogate it. Okay, why this shape is? Can it write on simple board? No, you need a special board, right? So knowledge is based on principle, but opinion is a mere first reflection of anything, right? If you teach someone, okay, what is politics? Oh, you know politics? I know politics better. Isn't it? Then if you, say, I am educated as a political scientist, what's the difference? Can you bring Rahul Gandhi to power? Then you are a political scientist. Otherwise, so here you see again power, if you can, teach rhetoric, power, how to capture power, how to manipulate election, right? So you don't need political scientist, you need, a management person. Like you have heard about from a person from Bihar, he is very popular. He is running IPAC, right? What is his name? He, managed the Modi election in 2014, then 2017 he managed Nitish Kumar election, again he managed West Bengal Mamata Banerjee election. नाम नहीं याद आया किशोर का, क्या नाम है उसका? Prashant Kishore, yeah. So need person like Prashant Kishore. You don't need political scientists like Yogendra Yadav or political scientists like many political scientists we have in many universities. You don't need. Anyway, so knowledge is based on principle, but opinion is a mere reflection. Knowledge always interrogate and tested. Interrogate and tested. And always, knowledge is always interrogated and tested and always, remain a truth. Right? Second, here this side in opinion, if someone interrogate opinion, right, you can find it is not a true knowledge. If someone interrogate opinion, then one can find it is not a true knowledge. Then knowledge has its internal value. Knowledge has its internal value. Right? Now opinion is, superficial. Yeah, thank you, Ashwin, Prashant Kishore. Yeah, I know. Prashant Kishore. I was provoking the students so that you come with the answer. Right? Superficial. So there is a knowledge, right? Right? So when the society is based on knowledge, you write, when the society is based on knowledge, how many minutes we have? When the society is based on knowledge, right? When the society is based on knowledge, it gets perfect, an ideal, right? Fine. So knowledge can make also, therefore knowledge can also make an ideal state. Knowledge can help in living a good life. Now see how much ethics he is proposing, right? Knowledge can help in living good life. There are various quotations of Socrates. Okay. The major famous line of Socrates are: first, knowledge is virtue. Knowledge is virtue. Unexamined life is not worth living. Unexamined life is not worth living. Right? Know yourself. Self. These are the famous line, right? Knowledge in caution. Knowledge in caution is knowledge for universal good. For universal good. So he's not only talking about knowledge is a virtue, knowledge should be examined. For example, if you take today India, any knowledge you have, you must examine it, you must question it, right? Not a knowledge is a sacrosanct, if you make the knowledge sacrosanct, then it will create a problem, right? So we examine our life, we examine our practice, we examine many institutions like gender, we must examine institution like caste, we must examine the institution like judiciary, we must examine the idea what is justice, we must examine the institution like parliament, what is the role of parliament. and we examine, right, that will be worthful living. Without examining our life, life cannot be worthful, right? And we can, if we examine knowledge, it will become a knowledge for the universal good, isn't it? What is a lab? Scientist lab. They examine, re-examine, re-examine, and then create a good that is for universal, right? For example, this is the technology. This is a product of the examining many things, right? You bulb, you see medicine have made it. How many times he examined it? How many time he has tested it? People, I have read somewhere more than 900 times he tested the bulb. And then, so, examining knowledge is a knowledge for the universal good, right? 2 minutes I will take more. That, what was the Socrates methodology?
I want to ask one question.
Yeah.
Like Socrates is talking about know yourself and that don't take knowledge as sacrosanct. Now this is similar to the enlightenment trend, where Immanuel Kant says the same day to you. So can't we say that this is also kind of
Yeah, philosophy is a ancient philosophy. Kant is a footnotes of the Aristotle or Plato, Socrates.
why don't we just
If we see Hegel borrow his idea from Aristotle, will tell you, right? So there is one scholar who said the original philosophy is a philosophy of Plato, and the rest philosophy are the footnotes of the Plato. So whatever philosophy that we talk about here, that roots belongs to Plato and Aristotle, and that's why Aristotle and Plato are very relevant, right? The work Republic is classical. Why we call classical text? You are right. The Kant said similar thing, but Kant borrow from this Greek thinker.
we call this as enlightenment phase rather than
Yeah, exactly. The entire medieval phase is a dark phase. The entire medieval phase was a dark phase, right? We'll talk about that. Fine. So it was, yes, you're right. This phase was a really enlightened phase where the rationality, logic was given primacy. Even today, we try to annihilate rationality, logic. Let me give you one last thing, and with this, I will end the class. One that is Socrates' methodology. What is Socrates' methodology? It is called dialectical methodology. It is called dialectical methodology. What is dialectical methodology? What is this? Right? Truth can be achieved through dialogue, discussion, deliberation, contemplation. All are the similar word, right? Contemplation, right? And this deliberation should be based on rationality and logic. Right? It can be interrogated. Right? It can be interrogated and tested. It can be interrogated and tested. Right? So, as we know that we know Socrates through the writing of Plato. So if you see, Plato's writing is in dialogue form. Have you ever seen drama? Play? What is a play? In play, if there is a stage, there are 4 or 5 people. Or you must have movie, right? What happens in drama? It takes a subject, a theme. Any movie or any book or take a theme, and they converse, they have dialogue, they have talk, and they conclude something. Okay, this is the idea. Got the idea? So if you see the Plato's Republic is, a republic consists many people. Glaucon, Thrasymachus, Edementus, right? Many people, Greek people and sophists also were part. One was common, Socrates. So you can find Socrates in Republic also. You can find Socrates in Crito. You can find Socrates in many books of the Plato. And he discussing with the other, and he defeating the argument of other, and then finding something. Okay, this is justice, this is piousness, this is, this should be the form of a state. This person should rule the state. There should be woman equality. I'll talk about. Later on, Plato focused on woman equality, right? And they gave some rational logic why woman should be equal. Fine. Dialectics, that is Hegel Shobhit, that is Hegel. Don't think about Hegel now. So got the idea what is dialectic method? He opted. Yeah, you are right. You are totally right. The dialectical method was similar to so many Shastrarth, right? Like, Shastrarth between Maitri and Yagyavalk, right? They were debating what is sexuality, right? A dialogue between Shankaracharya and Bharati and Mandan Mishra, right? The timeline, yeah, exactly, you're right. The timeline approximately 23 years ago, when you say 400 BCE to 300 BCE. This was the timeline of all three thinkers, approximately, but not mentions exact the time. Right? This is the particular age of the Plato. Plato was, Plato born when the already Peloponnesian war was going on. So after 3 years of Peloponnesian war, Plato born. Plato saw that the entire war demolished, was the reason for fell down of Athens, and it was a democratic state which was a reason for its moral degradation, and that's why he was very critique to the democracy. Right? So that was a dialectical method. Fine. So that is the last thing. Tomorrow we will talk about Plato.
What was the second point of opinion? If someone interrogates opinion, then if someone interrogates opinion, I missed that.
They may fail to achieve truth. So opinion is opinion. It's a superficial, idea. Fine? Right? So, for example, anyone asks you, okay, the Prime Minister should be like this. He will teach you, Prime Minister should be like this. Even you are a lawyer, or you are expert on Indian Constitution, you are expert on Indian politics, or you are expert on the job of Prime Minister. Okay, go and tell to any person that Prime Minister should do this. He will let you know he knows more about the Prime Minister than you. Right? So, but your knowledge is based on certain theory, certain idea, certain fact, but he may come with a certain opinion. But if you deep into that person, may say, भैया मुझे ज़्यादा idea नहीं है. right? मैं इतना ही जानता हूँ. They may come with you, right? But if person is arrogant, they will say, you don't know, I know the things. Depends on the person. Fine? Yeah, any more question? Any more question? Yeah, Shobit, yeah, exactly. Dialectical method means cautioning, right? Debating, deliberating certain idea and reaching towards the truth. Reaching towards the truth. Fine? Okay? So, see you then tomorrow. Fine? Okay. Okay, everyone. See you then.